Hello everyone, and welcome to the 8th part of the in-depth analysis of The Last of Us. In this episode, we're gonna be talking about the game's music. However, since I know absolute squat about music and musical theory, we're gonna do this in a format that I'm a bit more familiar with. So what I'm gonna do is present to you my top 7 favorite tracks of The Last of Us soundtrack. I think this format will best allow me to explain what it is I appreciate about these various songs, as well as what impact the music had on my gaming experience as a whole. Plus, making countdowns is really fun. Before we get going though, allow me to share some overall thoughts on the soundtrack. For those of you who don't know, the main composer of the soundtrack is Gustavo Santaolalla. He is primarily known as a movie soundtrack composer and has been awarded no less than 2 Academy Awards for his work. One for Brokeback Mountain in 2005 and one for Babel in 2006. He has a fairly unique style in writing and performing music, and this uniqueness is right front and center in his work on The Last of Us as well. When listening to the soundtrack, something you notice quickly is that many of the songs are quite minimalist. Many songs are built around 1, maybe 2 instruments, but I would say that this fits the game quite well. At times though, I feel it might be a bit too minimalistic. Some of the tracks are just mounting rumbling or just noise, and well, it's not what I would call distinct. Also, there are quite a few retreads of some songs, with one track having no less than 8 iterations. That's a minor nitpick though, as most versions are in fact quite different. One thing I think makes this a great soundtrack though is timing. More often than not, it's perfectly synced to the action on screen, and it's very poignant when it comes to matching the mood of the scene or gameplay section currently unfolding. Like all good video game soundtracks, just hearing a song brings back whatever emotions you were experiencing when you were playing through the game and heard the song for the first time. And given how emotional this game is, it just adds to the music's impact. As mentioned earlier, the soundtrack is very minimalistic, and I have to say it's incredible what could be done with just a few instruments. Personally though, I think it's at its absolute best when the compositions are really brought to life by additional instruments. Overall though, this is an amazing soundtrack, and I have a hard time trying to figure out what kind of music would suit the game better. So with all of that said, let's get on with the countdown. Please note that there are no real criteria for what I judge as good music here. The only qualifier really is that I enjoy the track and it moved me in some way as I was playing through the game. Also please note that I included songs composed exclusively for Left Behind. So, let's get cracking. Number 7. Infected. This track is a bit on the simpler side, but it does a lot to convey the feeling of dread you feel when you come face to face with the infected, especially in an open combat scenario. The best part about it is that this is surprisingly easy to demonstrate. Just listen to this song while looking at pictures of the infected, or better yet, watch someone fight them. You'll immediately understand what mood the song is going for. I would also say that this is the closest we get to a boss theme on the soundtrack. I mentioned earlier that this soundtrack is really good at matching mood and emotions, and I can't think of any better way to illustrate what is so terrifying about the infected in music form. It gives off a vibe of mounting terror and desperation, and I bet just hearing it reminded you of how you felt when you were hunkering down in that corner, hoping that that one clicker wouldn't notice you. Simply put, a great track for a great enemy. Number 6. The Choice. This is a very calm and relaxed song, and it comes just after a very emotionally intensive scene as well as an action sequence. It offers time for quiet and contemplation, not just on what's been happening recently, but what's been happening throughout the entire game up till this point. The progression of the track is slow and methodical, with a clear sense of melancholy. Instrumentally, it's also quite simple, consisting mainly of guitar plugs. Still, when paired with the situation, the surroundings, and the overall mood of the scene, it all just clicks. This is a song that gives off the feeling of deep thought, and I reckon that is just what they were going for. It's what you listen to when you need peace for reflection, and in all its simplicity, it's a very moving track. Number 5. answers. This is a song playing in the background as you go through the hospital level, and it is an amazing mood piece. It mixes tension with determination, and I don't think it's a stretch to call those the main themes of the entire level. What I especially enjoy about this song is the underlying beat. Not only does it sound like a ticking clock, but it also kind of sounds like a beating heart. This might sound a little pretentious, but I kind of feel like this song is a bit of a window into Joel's mind at this point in the story. We feel what he feels, and this song just reinforces that. It really puts you in the perfect state of mind to play this final level. As a side note, this is one of the few songs not accredited to Gustavo Santaolalla. As it turns out, it's by an artist named J.D. Mayer. All I can really say to that is, well done. Number 4. Left Behind. This is one of those songs you can't hear without thinking of a very specific scene. The scene in question is of course the final one from the prequel part to Left Behind. I really feel like this tune embodies the emotions felt throughout the DLC as a whole. Throughout the whole ordeal, you know how it's going to end. However, there is still an air of positivity, as futile as it may be. It somehow feels defeatist, yet forward-thinking at the same time. And really, that's kind of where Ellie's story is going at this point. Here, she has seemingly lost everything, yet there is so much ahead for her. Still, I can't hear this song without feeling absolutely heartbroken. It frames the tragedy of the fate that has befallen both these characters. What makes it even worse is that it wasn't even 10 minutes ago that we saw these girls being genuinely happy. It really is the perfect way to end this chapter, as all the emotions we feel are summed up in this one song. Number 3. The Last of Us, also sometimes referred to as the main theme. This track well and truly conveys the idea that there is a long journey ahead. This is not only accomplished with the overall composition, but also with the addition of footsteps on the gravel as part of the underlying beat. I have to say that I'm a bit surprised myself that I actually like this feature. In my experience, sound effects like these often come across as extremely corny. Let me give you an example. This is from a song I like, by a band I like, Passchendaele by Iron Maiden, of their album Dance of Death. Long story short, the song is about a battle in the First World War narrated from a soldier's point of view. Overall, the lyrics are great and the anti-war message is extremely poignant. However, about halfway through the song, this happens. Eagle! For no adequate reason. Eagle! This just kills the mood entirely and makes the whole thing come off as really cheesy. Yet, somehow, in The Last of Us, these footsteps really work. It underscores the notion that this is about a long and perilous journey. I also love how it ramps up and becomes more severe and serious in tone. Still though, the mood is kept determined, yet hopeful. It's one of the more advanced tracks on the soundtrack, and it does its job perfectly. It signifies what kind of journey that awaits us. Number 2. The Path, A New Beginning. What is there to say about this song that can't be said by just listening to it? This is probably the most memorable song of the entire soundtrack. This is due to this being the only song where there is nothing to distract you from it. The game is over, so there's nothing more for you to do than to sit there, take in what just happened, and listen to the music play. I'm willing to bet you will never forget how you felt the first time you heard this song. It's used for the absolute maximum emotional effect, and the way it kicks in when it does is nothing short of genius. This is, in my opinion, one of the best songs ever to end a video game on. The music itself is cheery and hopeful, yet somehow downtrodden at the same time. I really can't decide if it's uplifting, bittersweet, or flat out depressing. In this way, it perfectly reflects the ending. The story leaves you with this song, capping off an amazing tale with a contemplating melody. Number 1.
Come on, baby girl. I got you. I got you. Oh, shit.
All gone, no escape. I've already talked at length about how perfect this song fits the escape sequence. Here you no longer care about the implications of Joel's actions. All that matters is that he and Ellie are reunited, and that things stay that way. It's this very emotion that this song reinforces so amazingly. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but there is something oddly humbling about it. It's all set up so brilliantly that you can't help but be in awe. Also in general, I just love the instrumentation and composition of this song. It reminds me of the song Wandering from the Final Fantasy X soundtrack. Incidentally, that one happens to be one of my favorite songs from that particular soundtrack. But I digress. When I think about the soundtrack to The Last of Us, this is the song playing in my head. It churns up a storm of emotions, and I keep finding new things to like about it every time I listen to it. My favorite sequence of the game, set to my favorite song in the game. There is no way I could not put this at number 1. And that is gonna do it for this episode. Thank you ever so much for watching. I gotta say it feels good to record an outro where I don't have to make an apology for the lack of videos. So, progress, I guess. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. And if you like the kind of videos I'm making, then you're always more than welcome to subscribe. If you have any feedback, then feel free to post it in the comments. I am always looking for ways to improve the overall quality of my videos. Also, since this series is rapidly approaching its end, there are 2 episodes left after this one, I would love suggestions on what game you would like me to do an in-depth analysis of next. Feel free to post that in the comments as well. And finally, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing and how the next video is coming along, then you can always follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links are in the description. Until next time, folks, take care.